Welcome to our channel NEET Bio, Simplified Biology. In this video, we are going to learn about neural control and coordination chapter. In this chapter, we are going to learn about neural system, human neural system, neuron, central nervous system, reflex action and reflex arc, sensory reception and processing, and disorders related to neural system. Neural system. The neural system of all animals is composed of highly specialized cells called neurons. Neurons detect, receive and transmit different kinds of stimuli. Neural system in different organisms: sponges, no neurons; hydra, nerve plexus, network of neurons; planaria, 2 nerve cords; earthworm, 1 ventral nerve cord with paired segmented glial cells; insects, brain, ganglia, neural tissues; human, developed nervous system. Human neural system. The human neural system is of 2 kinds, namely central nervous system and peripheral neural system. Central neural system. It consists of brain and spinal cord. The main function of the CNS is to process the information received and controlling the processed information. Peripheral neural system. Cranial nerves and spinal nerves are the major parts of peripheral nervous system. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves present in the PNS. There are 2 types of peripheral neural system, namely somatic neural system and autonomic neural system. Somatic neural system. It is a voluntary control which sends the signal from CNS to skeletal muscle. Autonomic neural system. It is an involuntary control which sends signals from CNS to involuntary organs and smooth muscles. Autonomic neural system is further divided into 2 types, namely sympathetic neural system and parasympathetic neural system. Sympathetic neural system function during the stress condition which is stimulated by the adrenaline rush. Parasympathetic neural system functions during the normal condition which is stimulated by the release of acetylcholine. Let's see the next topic, neuron. Neuron is the structural and functional unit of our nervous system. The neural tissue consists of neurons and glial cells. Neurons have axons and they are incapable of cell division, but glial cells, which are also known as neuroglial cells, do not have axons, but they are capable of cell division. Now let's see the detailed structure of neuron. Neuron is made up of 3 parts: cell body, dendrites, and axon. Cell body, which contains the nasal granules, cytoplasm, and nucleus. Then dendrites. Dendrites are the short fibers which are branched repeatedly and contains the Nissel's granules. Axon. Axon is a long fiber which arises from the cell body with short cells covered with myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is used for the insulation to prevent the transmission of impulses between the neurons and nodes of Ranvier, which is the gap between 2 myelin sheaths and axon terminal with the synaptic knob or synaptic bulb. Neurotransmitters are present inside the synaptic knob and transmit the impulses from the neuron. Classification of neurons. There are many types of neurons, based on various factors. First one, based on the number of axons and dendrites present. There are 3 types: unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Unipolar neuron, with only 1 axon. Example, embryo. Bipolar neuron, the neuron with only 1 axon and 1 dendrite. Example, eye retina. Multipolar neuron, neuron with 1 axon and many dendrites. Example, cerebral cortex of brain. Next, based on the presence of myelin sheath. There are 2 types, myelinated neurons and unmyelinated neurons. Myelinated neurons are neurons with myelin sheath, and the presence of myelin sheath gives white color to the nerve. They also have the Schwann cells. Example, spinal and cranial nerves. Unmyelinated neurons are neurons without myelin sheath, which gives the gray color to the nerve. They are enclosed by the Schwann cells. Example, autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Based on the functions, there are 3 types: afferent neuron or sensory neuron, efferent neuron, and mixed neuron. Afferent neuron or sensory neuron gives the information from the organs to the brain. Efferent neuron provides information from the brain to organs. Mixed neuron acts as both afferent and efferent neuron, which is present in the spinal cord but not in the brain. Classification of glial cells. There are three types of glial cells, namely, astroglial cells, oligodendrocytes and microglial cells. Astrocytes, astroglial cells, star-shaped, helps to hold two neurons at a particular distance, in order to prevent the exchange of electrical impulses. It acts as an insulator. Also helps to fix the synaptic knob in the target organs. 2. Oligodendrocytes, helps to form the myelin sheath. Example, Schwann cells. 3. Microglial cells, are phagocytic. Let's see the new topic: generation and conduction of nerve impulse. There are four states: resting state, threshold state, active potential and refractory state. First, resting state. Resting state. In resting state, the membrane have -70 MV. Na+ impermeable, so high Na+ outside. K+ permeable, so high K+ inside. Positive charge on outside and negative charge on inside leads to polarized state. See the picture. 2. Threshold state. Membrane have -55 MV. Na+ permeable. 3. Active potential, also known as nerve impulse. Membrane have +45 MV to +50 MV, mostly +30 MV. Action potential takes place for about 1 to 2 minutes. K+ and Na+ channels opened, so Na+ influx and K+ efflux. Positive charge on inside and negative charge on outside leads to depolarized state. See the second picture. 4. Refractory state. Distance between two nerve impulses is known as refractory state. Na+ permeable, high Na+ outside, short-lived, and then influx Na+. K+ permeable, efflux of K+ leads to high K+ outside. Positive charge on outside and negative charge on inside leads to repolarized state. See the below picture. Now see the graph. The graph shows that, at -70 MV, it is in resting potential. At +35 MV, it is depolarized in active potential state. At _20 MV, it is repolarized and it is called refractory phase. After the nerve impulses are being generated and conducted, what will happen? The impulses are being transmitted from neuron to neuron. Let's see the transmission of impulses. Synapses are the junction which transmits the nerve impulse from one neuron to another neuron. The synapses is formed by the membranes of presynaptic and postsynaptic neurons. Synaptic cleft. The synaptic cleft separates the synapses into two. There are two types of synapses, namely electrical and chemical synapses. Let's see the electrical synapses. Electrical synapses have a synapses with a diameter of about 0.2 to 0.3 mm. The membranes of pre- and postsynaptic neurons are in very close proximity. The current flow directly from one neuron to another across the synapses. So the transmission is very fast in electrical synapses. Chemical synapses. Synaptic cleft is present, therefore pre- and postsynaptic membranes are separated. Neurotransmitters are involved in impulse transmission. See the picture. Now we are gonna see how chemical synapses occur. When the impulse arrives at the axon terminal, it stimulates the movement of synaptic vesicles towards the presynaptic membrane with the help of calcium ions released where they fuse with the plasma membrane and release neurotransmitter in the synaptic cleft. The released neurotransmitters bind to their specific receptors, present on the postsynaptic membrane. The binding opens the ion channels, allowing the entry of ions which generate a new potential in the postsynaptic neuron. New potential developed may be either excitatory or inhibitory. Then saltatory conduction. It takes space only in myelinated axon. 50 times faster than an unmyelinated neuron. Consumption of ATP is very less and very advantageous. Let's see neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine, secreted by presynaptic neuron when calcium moves and reaches postsynaptic neuron or muscle, which contain an enzyme called acetylcholine esterase. There, Acetylcholine converted into acetate and choline with the help of the enzyme acetylcholine esterase, then reaches presynaptic neuron again. 2. Norepinephrine or non-adrenaline. Monoamine oxidase is acetylcholine in function. 3. GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, inhibitory neurotransmitter during emergency condition. 4. Other neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, histamine, glycine, glutamic acid, aspirate, substrate phosphate, nitric oxide. Let's move into CNS. Central Neural System. Brain is the command and control system of our body, weighs about 1.2 to 1.4 kilograms. It is a site of processing of vision, hearing, speech, memory, intelligence, emotions and thoughts. It is protected by skull, and inside the skull, it is covered by cranial meninges. Example: fishes have 1 meninges. Reptiles, amphibians have 2 meninges. Birds, human have 3 meninges. There are 3 layers in cranial meninges. They are: outer layer called dura mater, middle layer called arachnoid, thin, inner layer called pia mater. See the picture. The picture shows the brain is covered by the skull. After skull, the layers of meninges, the outer layer called dura mater is covered, and arachnoid matter, the middle layer, then the inner matter, pia mater is there. So, after the skull and meninges, the brain is present inside. Let's see the brain in detail. There are 3 main parts of brain. They are forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. See the diagram. The forebrain consists of cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. The forebrain is also called prosencephalon. Then midbrain. Midbrain is also known as mesencephalon. Then hindbrain. Hindbrain consists of 3 parts, namely cerebellum, pons, and middle oblongata. Hindbrain is also known as rhombencephalon. Let's see the parts of brain in detail. Let's see the forebrain. Cerebrum. Cerebrum has 2 hemispheres, namely, right and left cerebral hemispheres. Both right and left cerebral hemispheres are connected by corpus callosum, which is used for exchange of information between right and left lobe. It is covered by cerebral cortex, which is gray in color. The inner layer of the cerebrum is a white matter, which is formed by the myelin sheath. Thalamus. The cerebrum wraps around a structure called thalamus. It is a sensory and motor signal area which collect information from the sensory organs and send the signal to cerebrum. 3. Hypothalamus. It is located at the base of the thalamus. Function of hypothalamus is to maintain the thermostat of our body, secrete hypothalamic hormones, responsible for salivation and thirst. Limbic system. It is the inner part of the cerebral hemisphere. It contains 2 parts, namely hippocampus and amygdala. Amygdala controls fear, anger, sex, and emotions. Hippocampus converts short-term memory into long-term memory. Midbrain. Midbrain is located between the thalamus and the hypothalamus of the forebrain and the pons of the hindbrain. Corpora quadrigemina. 4 lobes present in midbrain. Cerebral aqueduct, which passes through the midbrain. There are 2 sensory nerves, namely optic lobe and cerebral penticles. Optic lobes help in vision and butterfly-shaped. Cerebral penticles, long nerve fiber which connects the forebrain and the hindbrain. Hindbrain. 1. Cerebellum. It is a convoluted surface, helps to maintain posture and equilibrium. Arbor vitae, also known as life tree, part of cerebellum which branched, contains both white and gray matter. 2. Pons. It interconnects different regions of the brain. Function of the pons is sleeping center, respiratory center, and facial expressions. 3. Medulla oblongata. Function includes respiration, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, and yawning. It connects with the spinal cord. Brain stem. The midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata of hindbrain forms the brainstem. Let's learn about the different areas of brain responsible for different functions. First, frontal lobe. In frontal lobe, area No. 1 is responsible for smell, 2. Speech, 3. concentration, planning, and problem solving, i.e., thinking. Fourth one is motor. So, the frontal lobe includes 4 functions. Then, let's see the parietal lobe. Parietal lobe, first area responsible for touch and pressure, then taste, then third area is responsible for body awareness. So, parietal lobe is responsible for 3 functions. Then, temporal lobe. Temporal lobe, the upper area is responsible for hearing, then lower area is responsible for facial recognition. So, the temporal lobe is responsible for 2 major functions. Then, occipital lobe. Occipital lobe is the one which is responsible for the vision. Then, cerebellum. Cerebellum is the one which is responsible for coordination of all these functions, which leads to the recognition of vision, hearing, facial recognition, and every other function to coerce a reading and language. Let's see the ventricles of brain and spinal cord. Ventricles. The first ventricle and second ventricle are right cerebral hemisphere and the left cerebral hemisphere. They are paracoil. Then they are connected with the third ventricle through foramen of Monroe. Third ventricle is also known as dicoil or diencephalon. The third ventricle and fourth ventricle is connected through the ita or aqueduct of Sylvius. The fourth ventricle is myelocale, which forms a lateral canal called foramen of Luschka, then forms a median canal called foramen of Magendie. Spinal cord. Spinal cord is also known as a myelon, which is the extension of medulla oblongata. It contains white matter outside and gray matter inside. Length. In male 45 cm, in female 43 cm. Weight. 35 grams. It passes through the neural canal of vertebral column. It extends from the first cervical to coccyx. But function. From first cervical vertebrae atlas to first and second lumbar region. And reflex arc. Reflex action, without conscious effort or thought, and requires the involvement of part of central nervous system. There are 2 types of reflex. They are conditional reflex, based on past experience, and unconditional reflex, inherent. Let's see example. Knee-jerk reflex. When stimulus happens on the knee, the receptor organ, that is muscle spindle, through sensory or afferent neuron sends the signal to the CNS through the dorsal root ganglion, wherein CNS in return sends the signal to the motor or efferent neurons to the effector organs and results in the response. This stimulus and response forms a reflex arc. Sensory reception and processing. The sensory organs deduct all types of changes in the environment and send appropriate signals to the CNS, where all the inputs are processed and analyzed. Sense organs. Nose. Olfactory receptor, mucus-coated, for the sense of smell. Tongue. Gustatory receptor, contains taste buds, for the sense of taste. Eye. Sensory organ for vision. Ear. Sensory organ for hearing. Let's learn about the eyes in detail. Paired eyes are located in the sockets of the skull called orbits. Shape. Spherical. Layers. 3. The outer fibrous layer, sclera and cornea. Middle vascular layer, choroid, ciliary body, and iris. Inner sensory layer or nervous layer, retina. The outer fibrous layer, sclera, dense connective tissue forms the external layer. It is a white part of the eye and contains collagen fibers. Cornea, the anterior part of the sclera which forms the transparent part of the eye. Function, refraction of light. Canal of Schlemm, between the cornea and sclera, helps to drain the aqueous humor. Let's learn about the eyes in detail. Paired eyes are located in the sockets of the skull called orbits. Shape, spherical. Layers, 3. The outer fibrous layer, sclera and cornea. Middle vascular layer, choroid, ciliary body, and iris. Inner sensory layer or nervous layer, retina. The outer fibrous layer, sclera, dense connective tissue forms the external layer. It is a white part of the eye and contains collagen fibers. Cornea, the anterior part of the sclera which forms the transparent part of the eye. Function, refraction of light. Canal of Schlemm, between the cornea and sclera helps to drain the aqueous humor. The middle vascular layer, choroid, rich in blood vessels and contain a pigment called melanin. It is bluish in color and absorbs light. Ciliary body. The choroid layer is thin over the posterior 2/3 of the eyeball, but becomes thick in the anterior part to form the ciliary body. Ciliary body contains two ciliary muscles, namely circular muscles and meridional muscles, which helps in the relaxation and contraction of the limbs by secreting the aqueous humor. Iris. The ciliary body forms a pigmented and opaque structure called iris. It is a visible colored portion of the eye. It contains two muscles, namely radial and circular muscles. Radial muscle, dilator of the pupil. It is used in dim light. When it contracts, iris moves backward and acts during the stress condition. It is stimulated by sympathetic nervous system. Circular muscles, constrictor of the pupil. It is used in daylight. When it contracts, iris moves forward. It is used in normal condition. It is stimulated by parasympathetic nervous system. Iris also contains suspensory ligaments which helps to hold the lens in place. Lens. A transparent crystalline attached to the ciliary body. Pupil. Aperture surrounded by the iris, placed in front of the lens. The diameter of the pupil is regulated by the muscle fiber of the iris. The inner sensory layer. Retina. There are three layers of retina, namely ganglion cells, bipolar cells, and photoreceptor cells, namely rods and cones. Rods. Rods contain rhodopsin or visual purple, contain the derivative of VA. Function. Twilight or scotopic vision. There are 120 million rods present. More active in dark. Cones. Cones contain photopsin. Function. Bright daylight or photopic vision. There are 7 million cones present. More active in day. Cones are responsible for red, green, and blue lights. When they are stimulated equally, they produce a white color. Binocular. The ability to focus the two eyes on an object. Trichromatic vision. Red, erythropsin or erythrolab. Green, chloropsin or chlorolab. Blue, cyanopsin or cyanolab. Aura serrata. The structure that separates the sensory and non-sensory part of the retina. Blind spot. Photoreceptors are not present in the medieval posterior pole of the eyeball. Macula lutea. Yellowish pigmented spot present in the posterior pole of the eye lateral to blind spot with a central pit called fovea. Fovea. Thinned out portion of retina where only cones are densely packed. Visual acuity is greatest at fovea. Aqueous chamber. Space between cornea and lens which contains a watery fluid called aqueous humor. Vitreous chamber. Space between lens and retina filled with a transparent gel called vitreous humor. Accessory structures of eyes. Eyebrows. Prevent the entry of dust and sweat. Eyelids and eyelashes. Third eyelid is known as plica semilunaris, which is vestigial. 3. Glands of eyelashes. Gland of Zeiss, present at the follicle of the eyelashes, is a modified sebaceous gland. Meibomian or tarsal gland, present at the eyelids, it is a modified sebaceous gland. Gland of Moll, modified sweat gland. 4. Conjunctiva. It is a layer covering an eye, which is known as pink eye or conjunctivitis. 5. Lacrimal apparatus. The lacrimal gland contains an inferior and superior calculi, which contains a lacrimal sac, opens through the nasal lacrimal duct to form a lacrimal tears. The tears contain a lysozyme, an antibacterial agent. Let's see the mechanism of vision. When the light rays in a visible length focused on the retina through the cornea and lens, the lens generate an impulse in the photoreceptors like rods and cones. The photosensitive components, that is, photopigments in the human eye, is composed of opsin, a protein, and retinol, an aldehyde of vitamin A. The light induces dissociation of the retinol from the opsin, resulting in the changes in the structure of the opsin. This causes the membrane permeability changes. As a result, the potential differences are generated in the photoreceptors. This produces a signal that generates action potential in the ganglion cells through the bipolar cells in the CNS. The action potentials are transmitted by the optic nerves from the CNS to the visual cortex area of the brain, where the impulses are analyzed and the image formed on the retina is recognized based on the earlier memory and experience. Let's move on to ears. The main function of the ears are hearing and maintenance of body balance. There are 3 sections of ears. They are the outer ear, the middle ear and the inner ear. Outer ear, pinna and external auditory meatus. Middle ear, malleus, incus and stapes. Inner ear, cochlea and vestibules. Outer ear, pinna, made of elastic cartilage. Function, collect vibration to produce sound. External auditory meatus. It extends up to eardrum, contains hair cells and wax-secreting glands. Secretes earwax to engulf the alien particles. 3. Tympanic membrane, eardrum. Connective tissue with skin outside and mucous membrane inside, which acts as a connection between outer ear and middle ear. Middle ear. There are 3 ear ossicles, namely malleus, incus, and stapes. Function, to increase the transmission of sound waves to the inner ear. Malleus, attached to the tympanic membrane. Hammer-shaped largest bone in the ear. Hinge joint located between malleus and incus. 2. Incus, anvil-shaped. Ball and socket joint present between incus and stapes. 3. Stapes, stirrup-shaped. Connects at the oval window of cochlea, inner ear. Contains stapedius, which is the smallest muscle. Smallest bone in the body. Eustachian tube. Connects the middle ear cavity with the pharynx, that is nasopharynx. Function, maintain pressure on the either side of eardrum. Inner ear, labyrinth, outer layer, bony labyrinth surrounded by fluid called perilymph. Inner layer, membranous labyrinth surrounded by fluid called endolymph. Cochlea, the coiled portion of labyrinth. See the picture. The membrane constituting the cochlea, namely Reisner's and basilar, divide the perilymph into upper scalar vestibuli and lower scalar tympani. Scala media, space within the cochlea filled with endolymph. Scala vestibuli, ends at the oval window with the scalar tympani terminates at the round window which opens to the middle ear. Organ of Corti, located on the basilar membrane, contain hair cells, which is the auditory receptor. Basal end of the hair is in contact with the afferent nerves. Stereocilia, projected from the apical part of each hair. Tectorial membrane, thin elastic membrane above the rows of hair cells. 2. Vestibules. See the picture. It contains semicircular canals and otolith. Otolith, macula, is the sensory part of saccule and utricle. Semicircular canals. 3. Lies at right angle. Base is swollen and it is called ampulla. Contains projecting ridge called crista ampullaris, which has hair. Saccule and utricle contain a projecting ridge called macula. Receptors, crista and macula. Function, maintenance of body balance and posture. Let's see the mechanism of hearing. The external ears receive the sound waves and directs them to the eardrum as a sound. The eardrum vibrates in response to the sound waves. These vibrations are transmitted through the ear ossicles, namely malleus, incus, and stapes to the oval pindum or fenestra ovalis. These vibrations are then passed through the oval window to the fluid of the cochlea, where they generate the sound waves in the lymphs. The waves in the lymphs induce a ripple in the basilar membrane. The movements of the basilar membrane bend the hair cells and press them against the tectorial membrane. The nerve impulses are generated in the afferent neurons. These impulses are transmitted by the afferent neurons to the auditory cortex of the brain. These impulses are analyzed and the sound is recognized. At last, disorders related to neural system. Alzheimer's disease, due to reduced secretion of acetylcholine. Parkinson's disease, due to reduced dopamine secretion. It causes shivering. Wilson's disease, due to reduced dopamine secretion. Liver tissue got damaged. Huntington's disease, due to reduced secretion of GABA. Amnesia, memory loss which occurs due to Korsakoff syndrome. Schizophrenia, hallucination which affects the people because of depression. Meningitis, due to inflammation of meninges. Poliomyelitis, due to the damage of anterior horn of spinal cord. Multiple sclerosis, due to hardening of brain tissues. Sciatica, affects the sciatic nerve and leads to protruding of intervertebral lumbar disc displace. 11. Hypermetropia, farsightedness. They use convex lens. 12. Myopia, short-sightedness. They use concave lens. 13. Glaucoma, due to blockage of canal of Schlemm. 14. Astigmatism, due to the damage of cornea. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and share the video. Please subscribe the channel for more videos.